Security program on spreadsheets, new regulations piling up, and audit dread? It's time for Vanta. Vanta automates security and compliance, brings evidence into one place, and cuts audit prep by 82%. Less manual work, clearer visibility, faster deals, zero chaos. Call it compliance or call it compliance. Get it? Join the 15,000 companies using Vanta to prove trust. Go to vanta.com/calm.
That's the sound of a big deal. At Wayfair, that sound happens a lot. Dream sofa for half the price? Big deal. New dining table you've been eyeing for months? Big deal. Finally picking up those last few pieces and finishing that bedroom? Now that's a really big deal. Whatever your home needs, Wayfair has the selection, the savings, and over millions of 5-star reviews to back it up. Shop wayfair.com today before someone else snags your big deal.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Welcome to Under One Roof MTL, where we are demystifying home ownership one episode at a time. My name is Robin Flynn, joined as always by LJ Aguinaga of LJ Realties. Good afternoon, LJ.
Good afternoon, Robin. How you doing today?
Very well, thank you. Also joined by Martin Spalding, one half of Fred and Martin Mortgages. Hi, Martin.
By the way, he's back. But I want to make one little comment.
Okay.
This is the weekend where everybody wakes up on Monday morning grumpy as heck.
Yeah, time change.
Yeah, I know. It's brutal. And it's only an hour, but boy, you wake up on Monday morning and you're just like, where'd my hour go?
I'm ready to be done with it. Isn't BC's getting rid of daylight savings? This is their last time doing it. So let's all get on board. Just get rid of it.
That's
They
it.
should totally do that. It'd be wonderful.
Yeah. I remember we always used to tell us when we were kids, like, it's for the farmers. And then the farmers were like, whoa, stop blaming us. Like, we're not the ones asking for this.
blaming the farmers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one thing that'll definitely cheer you up is some free cookies. That always puts me in a good mood. So we're giving away some cookies from Felix and Norton Cookies. You can visit their store at the Blue Haven Shopping Center, 3705 St. John's Boulevard in DDO. If you think you know the answer to the trivia question that we are about to ask, text us 514-790-0800 and include your name. You will receive delicious cookies from Felix and Norton if you are the first one through with the correct answer. Our question this week, what is an amortization period? If you listen to the show, you should know the answer to this question.
Robin, say amortization again.
What is an amortization period? It's a good word.
It's very broad.
Great word.
Yeah, big word.
If you think you know it, 514-790-0800. The first one through with the correct answer wins cookies from Felix and Norton. Guys, there's a lot of stuff in the news this week. As always, I feel like I say that every week, but there's always stuff going on, which is good for us because we like to talk about it.
Is there really something going on?
There's always something going on somewhere.
Really, there's stuff in the news?
Yeah, geopolitics for one, yes.
Let's not go there.
Yeah, let's not go there. Let's talk about the Bank of Canada. They released this really great article, I believe it was on the Financial Post, about the 3 warning signs that homeowners could be headed towards potentially defaulting on their mortgage, which is great advice because if you find yourself in one of these situations and you're a homeowner, you could be getting yourself into a little bit of trouble. So it's important to understand the signs ahead of time. So the first one was about 2 years prior to defaulting on their mortgage. Very often, homeowners begin to over-rely on consumer credit. And what do we mean when we talk about consumer credit, Martin?
So I really, this article is a reflection of Fred and mine's practice. We deal with this day in, day out. And I honestly think that Fred and I could have written this article. And it's funny and it's not funny because the warning signs usually show up 2 years out. So 2 years out before you become past the point of no return, you really got to sort of take your head out of the sand and say, Houston, we've got a problem. So when we talk about households beginning to rely more heavily on credit, we're talking basically credit cards and lines of credit. So what we see is balances start to increase, credit utilization. We often talk about credit utilization. What is that? That means if your credit card has a max on it of 10,000 and you're using 8 to 9,000 of it, that's 90% utilization, and that can really hurt you. Most lenders, when you're either renewing or you're looking to get a refinancing or you're looking to get a mortgage, they look for credit utilization under 30%. So credit utilization begins to increase to a point where it doesn't look good on your credit report. So often families are using credit to cover their day-to-day expenses. So what does that signal to us? That means their incomes are no longer covering their monthly expenses. They're no longer covering their living expenses. So then there's two. So about 12 to 24 months before a mortgage goes into default. And by the way, the last thing you want to default on is your mortgage. I'm not saying that you should default on your credit card payments, your car loan, on your cell phone bill, but the last thing you want to default on is your mortgage. So this is when 12 to 24 months, this is when borrowers begin to miss payments on their credit cards, car loans, on their cell phone bill. So mortgages generally are the last thing that people start to default on, but now we're seeing a pattern. So in the final 6 months before our mortgage goes into delinquency, at this stage, we see credit card balances are completely maxed out. Borrowers are beginning to hemorrhage. And these indicators are strong indicators that the next thing up to bat is a mortgage delinquency or a missed mortgage payment. So why are these signs so important? Because these early warning signs, 2 years out, still give borrowers the opportunity to act before the situation reaches its point of default or the point of no return. So declaring bankruptcy, filing for a consumer proposal, or ultimately losing your home carry huge consequences for families. So if you recognize yourself in this conversation, you need to act. Now, you need to act, get the family together and say, we got to cut our expenses and we can go into delinquency. Or you can give us a call and we'll run through the numbers for you and we will come up with a strategy for you to stop this hemorrhaging. But again, the last thing you want to default on is your mortgage.
And one of the big things here is you want to catch this before it's a problem, right? You want to do something about it before you get a 60-day notice from your bank, for example. You want to do something about it before you've been avoiding calls from the bank for the last 3 months because you missed a payment and you know that something's not good and you feel embarrassed possibly because you just don't have an answer for them, obviously, because you don't know when you're going to have the funds necessary to cover the appropriate payments. But you need to take action, and communication is really the best policy here. Banks don't want to repossess your property. They'll do it if they have to, obviously, but it's not in their best interest. They're not in the business of carrying real estate and having to have property managers take care of it and having to verify the condition of it and whatnot. That's not what they want to be doing. So if you reach out to the bank and you put together a payment plan, if you come to an agreement with a couple of missed payments, if you look at a refinance option, there's a lot of things that are possible and feasible, but these things are only possible if you have open lines of communication with the bank. If you hide and you hermit and you recess and you do not speak to them, then they have to get legal with you. And once a lawyer is involved, generally speaking, it's going to be quick action at that point.
I agree, LJ. I mean, shame and embarrassment will be pushed by the wayside. Life happens and circumstances can put you in these vulnerable positions. And the worst thing you can do is to run away from them and hide because they're not going to go away unless you do something about it.
I also think education is a huge factor here. Like, we are not taught in high school what an interest rate is or how to properly manage your budget or how to navigate credit cards. I was told make your payments on time. No one ever told me about credit utilization before I got a credit card at 18. Maxed it out, ruined my credit right away at 18 and then had to repair it after that. Credit utilization matters way more than people realize. So bringing your balance down even just a little bit often, that's something we just did. Myself, Martin, you helped us refinance our house. We paid down some debts. My credit score shot up by over 100 points after we did that.
It's actually funny, you know what? Because we're working with another client currently, and their credit wasn't in a place where a traditional lender would look at it. And what we told them to do was to pay down some debt, pay down some credit utilization, and in a 6-week period, this individual's credit went from low 600s to high 700s. But there was a plan and there was a strategy. And the second point I want to make, and we've often talked about this, is I don't know why they don't teach home economics anymore. The basic use of a credit card, the basic savings, the basics of economics for a household. Because I think a lot of people get themselves in their situation because they just don't know better. And if they were slightly educated, they wouldn't get themselves jammed up.
I took
Money's
home ec
always
in high school, but I remember, like, baking pies.
No, 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 no.
Oh,
Yeah, I know
I took home ec as well in high school. It taught me how to sew, and to be honest,
yeah.
knowing how to sew is a valuable life
You
lesson.
guys
I'm
know what
still very
we had?
happy of
Home
that.
economics. Can I make an omelet?
But
Home economics. Can I manage my basic finances?
for sure, and I remember taking I had an economics class as well in grade 10, and it was really what's the difference between macroeconomics and microeconomics, and it was very surface level. It wasn't teaching us real life skills that you're actually gonna learn. Like, I wanted to learn, how do I read a lease, when I get my first apartment? How do I understand a credit card and interest rates and credit utilization, and all of those things would have been super important life
the
skills.
class
Make it part of
required
math class, I don't know.
financial literacy is the class required. Financial literacy. That's what the subject has to be. And then from there, you can cover all these important subjects. It could have a legal component for leases, like you mentioned, but real life financial literacy
And
101.
investment advice, teaching you the importance of investing perhaps in real estate. Maybe you wanna buy a multiplex and then you don't have to worry about anything because you've outsourced the property management and all that money is just rolling in. Now you're in your 20s and you've got passive income coming in. The best way to do that is to contact the Plex doctor after you've made your investment. You can call them at 514-709-6397 or visit their website at plexdr.com. Still to come, what makes a property hard to sell and what can sellers do about it? LJ has some tips for you after we check traffic at the CJD 800 Traffic Center. This is Under One Roof MTL on CJD 800. I'm Robin. That is Martin. That is LJ. What makes a property difficult to sell? What are the features that turn potential buyers away? LJ, let's paint a little picture here. Somebody comes to you and says, LJ, I want to sell my house. I want you to sell my house for me. You come into the home, you do a little walkthrough. What are some of the features that would stand out to you right away that would be like, this might make your property difficult to sell?
So there's a wide gamut of things, and obviously it's going to depend on what the client's willing to take on or not. But if we're going from the simplest things to correct to the most difficult, let's start off with a deep clean. A home always needs a really deep clean. You want to make sure the floors are spick and spam. The reality is, everyday life is not how you want your home to look, and we understand that everyday life is completely different than when you're trying to sell your property. I had a plumber pass by my home yesterday, and my house was in shambles. People were sick at my house. Just everything was kind of happening, and I felt terrible. The plumber just said, like, "You have kids, right? Yeah, I understand. Don't worry about it," But obviously, when we're trying to sell a home, it's a very different experience. So deep clean the entire property. We're talking about removing as many personal items as possible, and really decluttering is a huge thing. We are creatures that like to collect a lot of gizmos and gadgets and trinkets and tchotchkes, but you want to get rid of all those things is the reality. You want a home that looks as clean and simple and plain as possible, so that people, when they're walking through your home, are focusing on your home. They're actually focused on envisioning themselves in the space and where their dining room's going to go and how they're going to live in the living room and the space in the bedrooms and how spacious it is. So even though it might be more practical to have an extra desk in your room or a separate table for reading or whatever that it is that you might have, you want to remove all these things and really make it as plain as possible, in the sense of you want people to have space to walk around and focus on the space itself. The third thing that usually comes up as well is smells. If you have pets, if there hasn't been a deep clean done to the property, if maybe it's ethnic cooking that you happen to do a lot on the property, right? It's a question of mitigating these smells so that people don't get turned off immediately when they walk into the home, and again, don't have that as an immediate reaction. Our oratory factor is super, super strong, obviously, and it's something that can really deter people, and some people are super sensitive to it. So you want to be cautious with that.
Quick question. How do you get rid of cigarette smoke smell?
There's a couple
Because
different
that gives
ways.
me that must be a major turn off. Because I remember I was buying a condo near the Atwater Market, and the guy was a journalist and would sit at his desk and smoke all day, and literally, the ceiling was yellowed above his desk. That's how much he churned cigarettes on a daily basis. And I walked into there and I said to the agent, "I love the apartment, but how on earth am I gonna get rid of this smell?"
So, there's a couple things. First of all, either an acid wash, so you can wash the walls with bleach, ultimately. After that, you're gonna wanna do a coat of primer, a couple coats of paint. Before or in between those two things, usually I would do kind of a deep bleach wash of the walls, and then I'd sometimes go in with an ozonizer and, neutralize the smells with the ozonizer, and then after that's been done, after it's had a chance to air out, you wanna make sure you were careful with the use of the machine. Then you can go with the primer and the paint, and you should usually be okay. Every once in a while, there might be a whiff that comes back in when there's a big change in humidity possibly, but overall, the wall should be good. If they're really too far gone, you're gonna wanna change the gyprock and kinda start fresh there.
So I've come across Love It or List It UK, my new favorite show. And so they were showing a property, breathtakingly beautiful, like perfect for the couple. They went up to the second floor bedroom and it overlooked a cemetery. Is that a major turnoff for people?
Yeah, so now we're getting to things that are a little bit more difficult, right? I started off with the easy ones, obviously. After that, it gets into number of bedrooms, the layout of the home. After that, it's what you're close to. If you're right on train tracks, if you're right next to a cemetery, if you're right next to a bus stop, maybe that'll be annoying because the sounds. If you're near a truck station, highway, all of these things are deterrents for properties. However, there's things that you have to try and reposition and work to your advantage as well, right? You want to be upfront about these things. If your home is facing a cemetery, you want to make sure that it's either noticeable in the listing or there's a mention of it so that people aren't showing up expecting for this home not to be next to a cemetery and then they find out there because you're ultimately going to be wasting your own time preparing the house for all these showings that it's a bait and switch. It's a bait and switch that most people aren't going to appreciate. So you have to be very cautious with these things and make sure you're presenting them properly. But ultimately, if you're next to a cemetery, you're next to a cemetery. You probably got a great deal when you purchased the property and now you're gonna pass along a better deal than average to the next person when they're buying the property.
How much should you prioritize small repairs? So let's say you've got a burnt out pot light or, some chipped paint in the hallway from where you hung up a painting and you did a bad job or something like that. Are those things you should try to prioritize before listing your property? Or are those so minor that it really isn't a big deal?
It kinda depends. A lot of the time, I would say yes. A lot of scuff marks on walls, I'd say take a magic eraser to the wall, clean those up. It's usually pretty easy. People just again, we live in the homes, we don't take the time to make these repairs because we're busy living in the homes. Look, paint is an excellent thing. If you have the ability to do a fresh paint job on the property, it's gonna look a lot better. It's also gonna help neutralize potential any lingering smells or things that are associated with the property like that as well, so that's a huge value add that's not very expensive. Is it imperative? No, but I will say that a lot of the time when we're walking through properties and we're noticing these scuffs and these nicks and these marks and it comes off like owner of the property didn't take pride and care in the property. And then if we do get to the inspection stage and we do happen to find anything, we go down a much deeper rabbit hole of, well, if they didn't care to take care of these scuffs and this, they probably didn't take care of general maintenance or deeper maintenance. So it might be a somewhat of a turnoff in that regard. A lot of time I say that buying properties from older couples is the best. They've been in the home for 20 plus years. They're usually super meticulous. They're very proud. They had the appropriate home economics classes back in the day, so they knew how to repair things and maintain things properly. So those homes usually I find that are super well maintained and they're great. But you can tell when the handle is broken going into a bedroom, when the faucet's not working properly, when the caulking around the sink is not well, and you're starting to see some signs of mold, when there's signs of mold in the bathroom. Um, these are things that would have been very simple to repair at the right time, but they've turned into larger issues because they were left by the wayside. And again, it's no knock against these people, but the reality is that it doesn't look good when you're showing a property and it allows buyers to spiral. And the last thing you want is for buyers to spiral downwards. You want them spiraling upwards with, oh, this home is so well maintained. They've taken so much pride. They've taken such good care of it. I'm so excited to do the same thing with this home in the future. I know there's not going to be many problems with it because it's been so well cared for. That's the kind of feedback you want to be getting, not the other way around.
So a seller owns a home that has some of these challenging features, and they come to you and they say, "LJ, I want to sell my house, but there's, some things we gotta deal with here." Is it possible to reposition the property or maybe lower the price or a way that you can still attract offers without, taking a huge pay cut?
It's gonna come the best thing to do is to take care of these things is the reality, because 'cause you're always gonna get paid on doing these repairs and renovations. Buyers today, especially at entry level prices to a certain extent, they want turnkey. They don't have the ability, they're not manual, they're not handy, they don't know how to fix things, they don't know how to paint, they don't know how to do all these things that previous generations knew how to do super well, and thus, they will pay a premium for turnkey. They want to get a mortgage, they want to put as much on it as possible, and they want to move into the home, just bring their suitcases and live their lives. So if you can prepare the home to be that for them, they're going to be super thankful and they're going to pay you top dollar. If you are not prepared to do that, then you're going to find yourself having to take a discount, and the discount is going to be more than the cost of these repairs.
Interesting. Well, if you are not sure if maybe you should fix up your house before you list, or maybe you list as is, give LJ a call. He'll take a look. He'll help you figure it all out. 514-500-4040. Coming up, if you help your adult children buy their first home, are you being generous or are you taking a massive financial risk? Martin will break it down for you after the news. This is Under One Roof MTL on CJD 800. I'm Robin Flynn. That's LJ Aguinaga. And that is Martin Spalding. We are with you until 1 p.m. Helping your kids buy their first home. Is it a generous gift or a financial gamble? Martin, we are seeing this more and more and more. It is increasingly difficult to come up with the down payment needed to purchase a home nowadays. So, very often we're seeing parents help out their adult children to get into a property. Why is this happening in the first place? Why can't, 21-year-olds save up to buy their own home?
So the question that parents have to ask themselves is, when does helping become smart planning and when does it become financial risk? So why is this happening? Well, prices remain high relative to income. We talked about it last week.
Yeah.
The stress test rules still apply. And coming up with a down payment still remains the challenge for many. So even well-employed young professionals, they struggle to accumulate enough of a down payment fast enough. So that's when parents are stepping in to give them a hand.
So, what are some ways that parents can help? Because not everybody has, $100,000 sitting in the bank that they can just grab and give to their adult kids to put as a down payment.
So the most common strategy that we see is a gift of the down payment. So how it works, it's a non-repayable gift. So it can't be something disguised as a loan. It comes with a signed gift letter, which is required, and it's provided by the lender. The funds must be in the borrower's account before closing. So we always want to see what the provenance of the funds are. So the pros to gifting a down payment to your kids is it's generally it's clean and quick. There are no long-term obligations. It doesn't affect the parent's credit, but there are risks. The parents have no legal claim on the property. God forbid the child separates from their partner. The gift typically is gone in the settlement. And unless you're gifting to all your kids, it can create some inequalities amongst the peers or amongst the siblings. So once gifted, parents need to realize the money is legally the child's money. So they have no more say on the money. It is gone. It is a gift.
And that's important that you brought up the possible separation. A principal residence in a union like a marriage or common law, it's considered part of the family patrimony. So that gift, even if you gifted the down payment to your child, it still belongs to their spouse, and you
Exactly.
don't get their half back when they sell the house.
No. So the other options you have is the parents can co-sign. So the parents go on the mortgage and sometimes on title. Parents' income is used to qualify, so the parents fully responsible for the debt. So your kids aren't paying their mortgage. The bank is going to come and knock on your door. It can affect the parents' borrowing power because now they've got another liability in their credit report. It impacts the debt ratios. And as I mentioned, if your child misses a payment, you're legally responsible. And so you're now on board as a full obligation. Another way you can help is a HELOC. So what you can do is you can borrow against your own home. It's flexible, relatively easy. It comes at a lower rate than unsecured borrowing. But the risk is it turns your child's purchase into your own debt.
Yeah.
And often the interest rate on a HELOC is a variable rate. So you got to be comfortable with that. And the last one, I mean, there are many ways we can do it, but we're looking at reverse mortgages. So if you're an older parent, it's less common, but it's increasing. So the parents are asset rich, they own their house, but they've got limited cash flow. So they want to unlock a little bit of the equity in their home to gift it to their kids. The pros are there are no monthly payments and they can provide a lump sum. But the cons is the interest compounds, it reduces the estate's value, and it's non-reversible without some costs. So this is long-term planning, and this is not sort of casual support. You have to think, okay, if I do this for my kids, how is this going to affect my retirement and my nest egg, which is generally your principal residence?
Other ways that parents could help are government programs, right? If your child has a first home savings account, for example, you could potentially contribute to that account for them regularly as an option.
You can, and as parents, you should also make sure that we're talking about financial literacy. What the kids need to do is they have to look at the three basic programs. We often talk about them, the FHSA, the First Home Savings Account. Make sure they're contributing to that. They can also tap into their RSP as the homeowners plan, the home hires plan. I'm sorry. They can withdraw up to 60,000. So if it's a couple, they can tap into almost 120,000. I mean, if you're having trouble coming up with a down payment, how much are you going to have in your RSPs? And then the last one is the TFSA. And so what you do is you should stack these programs before you go and knock on mom and dad's door.
Yeah. What are some of the pitfalls that come with helping out your adult children buy their first home?
Okay, so let's say you're closer to retirement than your kids are. So does this delay your retirement because the money that you're giving to your kids was retirement money? Does this increase your financial stress? Helping your kids shouldn't put you and your spouse in a compromising position. There's also the relationship risk because we know that money changes the dynamic. It changes the expectations, it changes the control. There can be some resentment, and there's coming back to sibling fairness. So if you give to one, you got to give to all, and you have enough money for it to spread the wealth. There's the divorce and separation risk. So if the child separates, gift is usually shared with their partner, and you're not going to get your money back. And if you're a cosigner, you're still liable for the mortgage, and the equity is generally split. So parents rarely think about these things because they think, oh, my son and his daughter, and then our daughter-in-law, they're in a marriage forever. This gift will give them a head start, and then 5 years down the road, the couple separates, and bye bye the gift. And lastly, so you're by giving a gift or by taking a HELOC or by taking a reverse mortgage, does that prevent you from buying a cottage or from being able to downsize or being able to refinance your home? Because when you refinance, you have to requalify, and all of a sudden you've got a second debt on your credit report. So all these things you have to do is with eyes wide open. So the easiest way to do it is just to give the money that you don't necessarily need for your lifestyle or for your retirement.
Would it make sense for somebody who is considering helping their adult child by gifting them a down payment or potentially co-signing on their mortgage? Would it make sense for them to come to you and Fred and have a conversation with you first?
Well, absolutely. We could look at the financial situation of both the kids and both the parents, and parents get emotional about this, but there has to be, to a certain extent, a business transaction. You have to look at the impact not only on your holdings, but you have to look at, are you really helping your kids? And so, if you become dependent on your kids because you gave them too much money and it affects your retirement, 10, 15 years down the road, you run out of money. Who are the parents going to turn to? The kids. So it's just got to make sense, and everyone's got to be comfortable with the numbers.
It's very interesting. To find out more about what your lending options are, you can get in touch with Fred and Martin directly by reaching out to them on their website, fredandmartin.com. You can book a meeting with them directly there. You can give them a call. Everything you need is on that website, and you can ask them all your questions. Don't worry about bothering them. Martin loves it when his phone rings. He's told me,
At 3 in the morning.
especially at 3 in the morning. That is the ideal time to contact somebody and discuss business. Coming up, our property of the week, plus the answer to our trivia question of the week. A little refresher for you. This week it was, what is an amortization period? The answer is coming up after we check traffic at the CJD 800 Traffic Center. This is Under One Roof MTL on CJD 800. I'm Robin. That's LJ. That is Martin. It's time now for our property of the week, and I believe LJ is taking us to beautiful St. Leonard.
Are you looking for modern comfort in St. Leonard? Discover 5830 Rue Jarry East, Unit 208, a stylish 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo built in 2021 and offered at $475,000. Enjoy a bright, open living space, elegant finishes, a private balcony, indoor garage parking, and the convenience of in-unit laundry as well as central vac. This beautifully maintained condo is fully furnished, making it a perfect turnkey opportunity for homeowners or investors. Located close to parks, shops, restaurants, and transit, everything you need is right at your doorstep, including the future Blue Line extension. Call 514-500-4040 to schedule your visit today, or stop by Cafe Milano for a great sandwich or salad if you're in the area.
Love Cafe Milano.
That Blue Line extension is key because I bet if you were somebody who bought in Brossard before the new Champlain Bridge was built, you're feeling pretty good about your investment right now. So always good to pay attention to what sort of new public transit is coming your way, right?
100%. And if you've noticed, we really do cover the entire city and kind of greater Montreal. Sometimes we're in the South Shore, sometimes we're in Laval, sometimes we're in the West Island, or even Vaudreuil, St. Lazare, etc. Sometimes we're downtown. So any real estate needs you have, we're happy to help with.
Hey, LJ, you mentioned that the apartment was fully furnished. Is that an advantage or is that a disadvantage? Does that turn people off or turn people on?
It's a mixed bag. Some people are going to be like, awesome, I don't have furniture. I was in a fully furnished apartment. Some people are going through a separation and say, you know what, the place is furnished. Fantastic. I'll move into there and then I'll keep whatever I want and start changing pieces slowly. Other people have their furniture and are going to ask for it to be removed. So it's really going to be a case by case. But for certain people who could use a fully furnished unit right now, or who just want a pied à terre, or who just need a place to land to begin with, this is going to be a great option for them.
Very cool. We got to get to the answer to our trivia question of the week, brought to you by Felix and Norton Cookies. Our question this week was, what is an amortization period? The answer, an amortization period, is the total length of time, usually in years, that it takes to pay off a loan or mortgage, covering both the principal amount and the interest. So congratulations to Stu in Codenage, who is getting cookies from Felix and Norton. Guys, that pretty much does it for us for this week. It always goes by so fast. I swear this show flies by every week. If you have a question for the guys and you'd like to have the answer featured on this show, you can email us, underoneroofmtl@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with LJ, Fred, and Martin individually. LJ, where do people go to get in touch with you?
Check out our website, ljrealties.com, or on all socials with the handle LJ Aguinaga or LJ Realties with an IES at the end. You can also book a meeting directly with me on my website, meetwithlj.com. It'll pull both of our calendars and we can find the best time for you. You can also call or text me at 514-500-4040. And if you're looking to free up some time, or if you are just tired of managing your property because of the phone calls, because of the renewals, the RL31s, all the things that come along with managing a property, reach out to our property management company, the Plex Doctor, to take over and give you back your time. Find us at plexdr.com or call my partner Terry at 514-709-6397. He'll take great care of you.
Fred, Martin, I understand Fred is going to be back with us next week. The man, the myth, the legend, the godfather of mortgages will be back on the show next week. But he is back in the country, so you can get in touch with him if you need to, and you can get in touch with Martin as well.
Well, Fred's a global citizen, so no matter where he is in the world, he always picks up his phone, always answers his emails. But he is now back in Montreal, and he's excited to be back. We touched base yesterday morning. We have a lot of files on the go. We wanted to let him get his bearings, and that's why he's not with us this morning. But he will be back in the flesh on the show next week. So if you want to get in touch with myself or with Fred, the best way to do it is through our website. Very similar to LJ, you can book us. Our phone numbers are there. Our email addresses are there. It's fredmartin.com, fredmartin.com. And if Fred was here, he'd tell you it's fredmartin.com.
If you missed anything, you can listen to the show in its entirety on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, LJ's YouTube channel. This show is absolutely everywhere. You've got your bases covered. For LJ, Fred, and Martin, I'm Robin. Have a wonderful Sunday.